often are you locked in your cell in prison? So yesterday at Thanksgiving, my niece said to me, how many times could you get out of your cell a day? And I just smiled. I said, well, we weren't locked in our cell all the time in prison. Like I was in the rec yard. I walked 10 miles a day. I was in the library. And she's like, really? I always thought that you were locked in your cell. And I said, no, when I was in Minnesota, we didn't even have doors on the cells. Well, then her husband says, I think I would have rather had a door. And I said, right? It's actually kind of scary when you can't get away from people, because there was this unit, it was called the RDAP unit that I lived in, where we were just in big open ranges with a bunch of bunks. And in that unit, we have to hold each other accountable for behavior, which is kind of scary because you're gonna have to sleep with one eye open, right? Like you can't, no privacy. So I would have preferred to have a cell. When I first got to prison, I was in Dublin, California, and they had doors on the cells, so they could actually lock them. But they rarely did, because in federal prison, you're locked in a unit. And in that unit, there's showers, there's TVs, there's laundry rooms, and so you can walk around in the unit unless you're locked down. Now, if the compound's locked down, which happens more in men's prisons because they're more violent. So if there's a fight, everyone gets locked down. But if you are locked down, you have to stay in your cell. Other than that, you're just locked in the unit for 50 minutes. And then for 10 minutes, you can move. They open the door and you can go from one unit to another. Well, you can't go to other people's units, but you could go to like the library or the kitchen or your job. And it's a compound. There's different buildings that you can go to. But when you get to that place, they lock the door after 10 minutes and you have to stay there for another hour. And they call it the 10-minute move. Now, if you're in jail, you're locked in a lot of the time. And if you're in an isolation cell, or if you're in the SHU, the special housing unit, when you're in prison, which I've been in, you're locked in 23 hours a day. It's a very small space and it gets pretty claustrophobic. But in regular prison, you have more freedom than you have in jail.